how important is cash flow and residual? And what alternatives do people have for receiving cash flow and residual?
To kind of give you an example, if you're earning 5 or 6%, I would need $750,000 at 5% in order to earn $36,000 a year in residual. Now, in order to get that 750, I'd probably have to earn 1.4 or more because I got to pay taxes and like all this other stuff. So
How is the real estate industry changing?
consumers are taking more and more control of the process. And then I think the other thing that's true, agents are having to understand technology way more than they did before.
Hi, everybody. Jose Luis Morales here. Welcome back to the Residual Real Estate Agent Show. Today we have Aaron, the myth, the man, Novello. We've got a huge announcement, but I'm going to let him tell you what the announcement is. And he's going to be talking to us about why he made this decision. Welcome to the show, Aaron. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, brother. I appreciate the kind introduction and your kind words. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. So what we're announcing is that I made a decision. And the decision that I made was to change models and change companies. And it's not one that I take really lightly, because I'm aware that I have, some influence. And I'm aware if I make a decision, it could influence other people. So I really wanted to make sure that if I did make a decision, that it would not only be, beneficial for me, but it would be beneficial for others, right? So what I did is in coming to that conclusion and the decision, I really studied. I studied for like at least a month. Me and you were having conversations for a year, really. We could talk about how those initial conversations went, but I studied. And then what I did after I gathered information so I could really understand it, because I think most people don't and haven't taken the time because I didn't, is that I triangulated ideas with believable people. So I sat down with people in our industry that have either been in it for 30 years, have produced at, insanely high volume, people that I really respect and know, and that are, legitimate players in the residential resale game. And I asked them a couple of questions, and the questions were really based around like, look, I want you to sincerely, right? Like no ego. I need you to show me what I could be missing about this. Like, how could I could be wrong, right? After studying, here's the conclusion I came to, but like poke holes through it, right? Like try to rip it to shreds. And what was interesting is that they really couldn't. So that just made me recognize that the conclusions I came to were accurate. And my experience is once you see it, you can't unsee it. So the decision that I made is to go from my previous company to now being at ExP.
That's awesome, my man. And you know what I love about that is that when most people run things by them, you typically go to people that are going to reinforce their idea. What you did is you did the opposite of that. You said, hey, look, I could be wrong on this. Tell me why I'm wrong, versus looking for people that are just going to confirm what you already think.
Yeah. So, and that's a really good point. What I'm aware of is that there's two things that usually get in the way of changing your mind or getting to an accurate assessment of reality about something. Because I got to see what's true. And then once I can see what's true, I can make decisions in accordance with that. And that'll increase the chances that I'll produce favorable outcomes, right? The first thing that gets in the way is fear. And usually anything that's new is scary. I mean, that's the way it's been through human history. I'm sure when, the first automobiles came out, people hating on automobiles, like, oh no, they're never going to last. Horses are going to last forever, like that sort of thing, right? And I'm sure when, I know for a fact, because it's been documented, when, companies like Netflix came up, Blockbuster was like, nope, that's never going to work. It's never going to last. Like, it's not sustainable, like that sort of thing. So, I mean, that's a normal, natural response to anything that's new is fear, but it's fear of like what other people would think, fear of what other people would say, doubt, like if it would work out or if it would affect you in a negative fashion, if it's the right decision. What's also true, though, is there's an opposite side of that, which is overconfidence. And that's where, people like me and you have to be exceptionally careful, because we've produced favorable outcomes, selling over 100 homes a year, in my case, consistently over the last, 10 years in a row, right? 2,000 properties in my career. So I'm aware that, I have some knowledge and information that has worked for me. At the same time, simply because something worked in the past doesn't mean that it's always going to be true, right? So there's no guarantee that I'm going to have this forever, and there's no guarantee I'm going to have it for long, right? So I think what the mixture is confidence with humility. So what humility does is humility drives doubt. So when you pointed that out, like I'm asking people like, hey, like legitimately, I'm not asking you like, tell me how I'm wrong because I want to be right. It's more like, hey, I'm seriously interested. I respect you. You're smart. You understand this very well. Tell me what I'm missing here, right? Because if I need an accurate assessment of reality, I can't afford a blind spot. I can't afford not to see something, right? So humility drives doubt. Doubt creates curiosity. Like, oh, this is interesting, right? Then what curiosity does is it motivates discovery. You discover something new because you've been talking to me for about a year and my mind was closed to it. And the most expensive thing you can own is a closed mind. It motivates discovery. And then discovery, it's a loop. It reinforces humility. It reinforces that like, oh, like there's still a whole bunch that I need to learn. Now there's also an opposite end of that cycle, which is overconfidence. So like we were saying, like, people who've produced favorable outcomes, they get overconfident in their information that they have. And then what they do is that overconfidence leads to conviction, which is like, nope, this is the way it always is. Nope. And we've both experienced this because we have the good fortune because of our relationship where we triangulate ideas with each other. And sometimes you share something with me and I'm like, nope, initially. And you're like, nope, I share it with you. And then as time progresses, we give ourselves the ability to like consider and rethink. And then, sometimes we change our minds, sometimes we don't. So, but that overconfidence leads to conviction. And then what happens when you're convicted is that if anybody mentions anything to the contrary, it elicits like this big emotional response. And then I get kind of susceptible to what's called confirmation bias, which is where what you were saying is I only surround myself with people that support my way of thinking. And that's like really prevalent in our current culture and current society where you get these silos of thinking, right? And I seek out evidence to support my belief and I ignore all evidence to the contrary. But then I get more kind of prideful in my wrong opinions. So the goal here is to have humility and confidence. Confidence in that I know I can learn something and that I know I can produce a certain outcome, which is that I trust myself. And then humility in really asking myself, do I have the right tools for the current environment? And that was a really big kind of deciding factor in making that change, is really asking myself, based on everything that's changing in the industry, based on, how the internet is massively disrupting what it is that we do and how we, connect with clients and how we connect with other individuals and social media's impact and attention, which model provides the best tools. And, that's why I came to that conclusion.
For our viewers, I mean, this decision, you didn't take it lightly. You had been with your previous company for 15 plus years. It wasn't like you're one of those agents that moves every 1 to 2 years. It was something. And I remember like your initial reaction was just like mine, because I was introduced to the model back in 2017. I said, nope, not interested. Don't want it to distract me from selling real estate. I just want to focus on this one thing. And I blocked it off for a couple years. But then once I actually opened my mind and I actually was like, whoa, this is actually a really good vehicle to help me reach financial freedom and also help a lot of people reach financial freedom as well too. So my question to you is, what made you make the move? Like, what were some of the things that maybe you saw in this company that you didn't see in other companies? And also, like, when you talk about like the environment changing, like, can we also talk about that, like how the environment in real estate is changing as well too?
Yeah, 100%. So, in terms of what I saw a couple things which are really interesting. Is one is in most traditional, um, firms, agents don't participate in the upside of the mothership. Despite generating all the revenue, they don't really have any equity, right? So they have no potential for upside in the company as a whole. So as a publicly traded company, this platform provides an opportunity for agents to have equity and to have ownership in the upside, right? And that's interesting to me because, in all the time I've been doing this, if I had been receiving, that icon award, I'd have, 500,000, maybe more in equity. And that's meaningful. What I see is that because I have the good fortune of coaching agents throughout the country, is that unfortunately the majority of agents at the end of the career don't have a whole bunch to show for it. So this really provides an opportunity not only for this myself, but for anybody that I may have proximity to, or people that might get connected with me, to where it's a vehicle in which you can obtain equity and you can have a piece of the upside of the mothership, which makes you a stakeholder, right? And that's one of the things that caused me to really say, really look at this closely. The other thing that caused me to do that is that how we were talking about how the environment's changing rapidly. So, the internet is disrupting all industries, and ours being one of them. It's just happening, a little slower, but we've seen all of these major platforms, whether it's Zillow, whether it's Redfin, utilizing their business models. Now it's these platforms that are giving out leads and taking referral fees and then pushing into ancillary services like title and mortgage. And other companies that are, trying to integrate technology, and all of these additional software companies now that are required, which is causing the cost of sale to go up and the net to go down. Like, all of these things are taking place. So I do believe that collaboration is the new currency. So what's true is that this platform provides like a very much so incentive for collaboration. It encourages it at a level that I've never seen or experienced before. Right. And I'm aware that type of collaboration and that type of synergy is exceptionally powerful and really can benefit, the agent community. Right. So, one of I think the challenges for agents is that they need proximity, and they need proximity to people who can actually pour into them and show them specifically how to do things. Not like, it's all in the mindset, Jose. It's like, that's not very helpful. Or like, oh, you got to think positive, like you could do it. It's like, okay, like that's not like, yes, but you're not giving me actual tools. You're not equipping me with tools and systems to show me like how to actually do this and how to earn income. So, again, the platform encourages collaboration at a super high level. And, for that reason, I think it's very important to be thoughtful and intentional about who you partner with, right? And who they have proximity to, because it's really about a value add. Like, how can they add value on top of, the platform? How can they add value to you as an individual? What systems do they have in place? What, like content do they have in place for you? What kind of training can they provide and things of that nature? And this platform is really, really conducive for that.
Aaron, that's the same thing I love about the company. Like, if you think about it, like agents that are partnering with me, I'm giving them plan of actions. I'm giving them how to present. I'm giving them universities. I'm giving them, and it's so crazy how like the mindset sometimes people think of other agents as competition versus like, how can I collaborate with this person? How can I use the skills that they have, combine the skills that I have, and build something really big together? Not only that, but like for the viewers out there, like, and this is something that I didn't really think about until after I moved to the company. At a traditional brokerage, it's almost like you're in a rat race. Like when I say the rat race, like almost like you're a hamster in a wheel. Unless you sell a home, the hamster wheel is not moving. Meaning, unless you sell a home, there's no income coming in, and unless you have like rental properties or have invested your money elsewhere, the moment you stop selling homes is the moment that income stops coming in. So this company allows you to have additional sources of income, not only in stock, but also residual coming in, where hey, if you don't sell a home today or you don't sell 10 homes this month, there's still a steady stream of income coming in as well too.
Yeah, and I think that that's really important because what I'm aware of is like, when a lot of people get into this industry, people like their family members or people who mean well or who like love them and think that they're giving them good guidance, they'll be like, "Hey, you should probably do something else that's more steady." Like, like get like a steady paycheck, like that sort of thing. Because what they're doing is they're confusing risk with volatility. So they think that it's risky, but what's really true is that it's volatile. Volatility meaning like one month you might do really well, and the next month, it might be a little bit lighter, right? Now, the question is how do you hedge against volatility? Well, the way you hedge against volatility is two ways. The first one is with consistency, discipline, skills, right? A lot of things me and you worked on at when we first connected, and that's one way to hedge against volatility. The second way to hedge against volatility is additional streams of income, right? So yeah, having the opportunity to participate, whether it's in with equity or in additional streams of income to the agent, who again is the one that's generating all the revenue. Without the agents, nothing happens. Everything stops, right? So, being in a place where there's a platform that provides that to agents where they can hedge against that volatility, I think makes a lot of sense.
How important is cash flow and residual? And what alternatives do people have for receiving cash flow and residual? Because this is something that I didn't realize until after the fact. And I own a lot of real estate. I know how difficult it is to buy that much real estate and have it produce a certain amount of cash flow. And until EXP, that was the only way that I knew how to build residual.
Yeah, so this is one of the things that we've had numerous conversations about. So you own a lot of physical assets. I do a lot of syndications and private equity. So you invest actively in commercial real estate or multifamily. I do multifamily just through syndications. And you're right. I know how much money it takes to actually generate meaningful amounts of passive income. And to kind of give you an example, if you're earning 5 or 6%, I would need $750,000 at 5% in order to earn $36,000 a year in residual. Now, in order to get that 750, I'd probably have to earn 1.4 or more because I got to pay taxes and like all this other stuff. So I'm aware that for a lot of people, depending on where they are in their life cycle, some people might be in their 40s and 50s, some people might be older than that. The probability that they're going to do that is probably small. And that's not me being negative. It's just an accurate assessment based on statistics and numbers. So, with this opportunity, provided that you can add value and provided that, you're really coming from that place of contribution and how can I serve and how can I improve, the lives of others, you can I think it's value in relationships over time. You can create the same amount of residual income with just a handful of relationships versus having to go out and earn, again, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6 million bucks.
For me, when I was at my previous company, I probably brought on like 15 agents to the company. I never expected anything in return. And looking back at it, I was just like, man, like had I joined the company earlier, I would have been making some residual off that as well too, which was really interesting to me. What has you most excited about the company, and what are some of the goals that you want to maybe achieve with this model?
Yeah. So what has me most excited is the synergy and the collaboration. So, to be collaborating with people like you and, others that we are in proximity to, that's really fun. There's an energy there that like I haven't, experienced in a while, which is great. And what I'm also aware of is, my intention is to really, I'm at a place in kind of my career and in my life where I'm really interested in passing along information that has served me very well, that has helped me, you know? So I see creating an organization in which I can pour out as much as I possibly can into others with the intention on it serving and helping them because this industry has, been very good to me and my family. And my intention is now to, equip other people to play. so they can play at a high level, and it can provide their family the same types of rewards that it's provided mine.
Yeah, and same here, man. And I've obviously benefited from that information tremendously. I tell people, um, uh, like 2 weeks ago, I was just like, man, how different would my life be if I had never met you in my life? This is not like a love story or anything like that, but it just I'm really appreciative of the relationship and having met you as well too in my life. What would you say to somebody who's maybe already has decided that they want to move to EXP and maybe they're considering different partners to partner up with? Like, what would you suggest to them as to maybe what to look for and what is important about like, how can a partner at the company actually benefit you or help you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think what's important is to anybody that you get into partnership, whether it's something like this or just in general, you're looking for a few qualities and characteristics. The first is that they have high levels of energy, right? The second is that they have really high levels of integrity, meaning like you would feel comfortable letting them watch your kids. You know what I'm saying? Like they're good people, they're going to do the right thing. The third is that they're sharp as a tack, so that like they are operating at a world class high level, right? You have to get proximity to people that are, doing 5, 10 times what you're currently doing, so that way they can help you to elevate, right? So those are kind of the initial qualities and characteristics, because I want to do business with people that I want to do meaningful work with people that I like and enjoy. So I got to like and enjoy people, right, first, and that they have high levels of integrity, and then they're sharp as a tack. They have a particular skill set that is very helpful or useful to me. And so that's the initial criteria. And then from there, what I would look at is like, how could they add value above and beyond just the opportunity, right? So what type of content can they give me access to? What type of training can they give me access to above and beyond what the platform already provides? What type of access to systems and processes and procedures can they give me access to? And then also look at who that individual is in proximity with, because my experience is that it becomes this like kind of uh, like chain, right? So if people have proximity to me, they get access to 90% of everything that I do for free. But because I have proximity to you, they get access to what you're doing, and perhaps what you're doing on social and TikTok. And then who you have access to, they have something that's really awesome that they would have access to. So it's really aligning yourself not only with people that have high levels of energy, super high levels of integrity, and they're sharp as a tack, but they actually have legitimate, tangible, real value that they can add to you and your business to help you to grow and expand.
It's funny because we started having this conversation about like commissions being compressed over time, maybe like a year or two ago. And you started having the conversation with me as to having multiple different streams of income as well, too, just having different streams of income. Can you, and this will be the last thing, but just for our viewers to kind of like get an idea, like how is the real estate industry changing? Because the number one thing is just being aware of it. If you're not aware of it, like it's kind of like it just blindsides you. But if you're aware that there are certain changes happening in the real estate industry, I think it puts you in a better position to be able to make better decisions as well too. How would you say the real estate industry is changing?
Yeah, a few ways. So the first way that it's changing is that consumers are taking more and more control of the process because of their access to information via the internet. So buyers took control of the buy side of the business a long time ago, once they had access to data. And now what you're starting to see happen is sellers are taking control of the sales side, where they're going online before they call me and you. They're bumping into platforms. Those platforms are giving out that lead, and now we're paying referral fees on it. And what I'm seeing from some of the top agents that I coach that earn over $1 million a year, and in my business as well, that 20 to 30% of the business is now becoming that. So what that means is that we have to sell more homes in order to make the same amount of money, because the net's being compressed. Now, over the last, I'd say 24 months, that's been kind of masked a little bit by the marketplace rising so much. At the same time, that doesn't change the fundamental reality of what's happening. And because of that, when we used to have databases and there was a rule that said like 10%, if you service your database, you'll get 10% of your business from that. I think as time progresses, that's going to continue to go down. It'll be more like 6 or 7% because people they'll go online and then they'll bump into some place and then it'll come back to you and there'll be a referral fee attached. So I think consumers' behavior is being augmented by technology. They're going on to this first before they do anything. They're checking online reviews, they're checking videos, they're checking websites to make decisions because that's the way technology is training them, augmenting behavior. And then I think the other thing that's true is that because of the change that technology is having on behavior, agents are having to understand technology way more than they did before. And you're seeing that, right? You see that like kind of chasm between that generation that's like, oh, I don't do tech, and they're all afraid of it. And the younger generation, or those that are adopters, they may not be young, but they like understand the importance and they figure it out, that they realize that like CRMs are really important. Like, having automatic, text messages and automatic bomb videos and emails are very important. That, tracking, things on a regular basis is very, very important. So I think these changes are good in that they're forcing us to get better as individuals. But I think what's going to happen is that the age of the individual agent who does 5-10 deals a year, that's going to go by and is independent by themselves, is going to go by the wayside because they're not going to be able to compete. They can't keep up with the speed that consumers are demanding. They can't keep up with kind of delivering the service, how fast, people's expectations are. So I think in the future, there'll either be teams who do high volume, or there'll be people who work for them. I mean, that's how I see that kind of playing out. And with the net being compressed, which is what's happening, on very large teams, they're running 20% profit margins. So then the game, 20, 25, maybe 30. So the game becomes ridiculous volume, right? It becomes like crazy amount of deals, 500, 600, 700 deals. And it also becomes vertical integration. So you see ownership of title companies, ownership of mortgage companies, ownership of, all of these ancillary services to try to make up for the compression in net. So that's like legitimate real time happening right now. So as an individual agent, I need to be able to see that and position myself accordingly, right? So, I have a residential resale business. I have a consulting thing. We do all this private equity thing. Let's say you have other streams of residual. You're essentially accomplishing the same thing that major industry is doing. You're just doing it yourself as an individual.
And typically that opportunity was only available like to the best, the like number one, number two agent, because the number one, number two agents are getting those types of opportunities to invest in the title company. They're getting the opportunity to invest in lending companies. They're getting the opportunity to invest in the escrow for the company. But the challenge is, what about the opportunity for your average agent, and that's why so many agents are ending up 60, 70 years old with nothing to show for it. They've sold decent amount of homes, but at the end, they don't have anything to show for it at the end of it.
Yeah, it's kind of wild the way our industry's set up, which is that like, agents do all the work, they create all the revenue, but then when it's like, okay, your retirement, like that's up to you. Or like, okay, your healthcare, that's up to you. It's kind of wild, right? That's the way it is. And, I'm aware that in general, the majority of Americans don't typically do well with that, right? I think the average person has like $130,000, $160,000 in retirement when the time they're at retirement age at 65 or 70 years old. So, I think what's happened is that a while ago, maybe 30 or 40 years ago, real pensions went away. And corporations basically said, look, this is too expensive for us to run, so we're going to give it to you with the 401k. We're going to give you the responsibility. Now it's based on your contribution. It's not based on, how long you've worked here. And because it's based on your contribution, you're not going to get exact amounts no matter what, for the rest of your life. And by the way, you have no education on this. So here you go. Have a nice life. Here are the choices to choose from. See you later. Which is kind of wild, right? And so, yeah, to your point, like this, from a financial perspective, I think is, an evolution that is providing agents, again, an opportunity for equity, an opportunity for the upside, which, is critical if you want to, at the end of your working career, have something to show for it.
What would you say to the agents that are scared to make a move? Like for example, before I made the move and like you look at me, you're like, this guy sells hundreds of homes, makes millions of dollars a year. But a story that I was telling myself, and this was a story, I thought like, man, like when I make the move to a no-name company, meaning a company that doesn't have as much market share as my previous company, because my previous company had the number one market share, are people going to still want to do business with me? And that was a story that I was telling myself. But what I've realized is that different people have different stories that hold them back. And it's different for everybody. People have different stories as to why they do certain things. What would you say to maybe an agent that has a story that they're telling themselves? I know for me, what ended up happening is I basically improved my income when I moved the company by like 25%, which proved that that story wasn't true. And I kind of went through like a auditing process. Like I started auditing my thoughts. Like, okay, is this really true? What would you say to somebody that maybe is considering making the move, but has some sort of like uh, uh, concern or maybe a story that they're telling themselves?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I'm aware, like as you were telling me that story, that wasn't your story. Somebody fed it to you.
It's probably my broker.
Well, yeah. So like what I'm aware of is that like this idea that it's the brand that actually allows you to be as successful as you are, and that it's super duper valuable. I mean, we both know from our experience that that's not actually factually correct. It's just a mechanism to engender fear and doubt, right? Like you start to doubt yourself, like, is it even possible? And I'll give you an example. Like I had a past client that I met with the other day, and I had already made the change. They didn't ask me who I was working. Like they didn't even care, bro. It's just a different name on the listing agreement. Like that's it. Like it doesn't, right? So I would just kind of just ask yourself a question, like, is that story my story, or did somebody give it to me? And the person who gave it to me, is there incentive for them to give it to me? Like, is there a reason why it's being, kind of suggested or proposed, right? Yeah, I mean, I think that's really what comes up for me as you ask me that question.
And for me, what I did to kind of really see if that story was true, I asked myself, well, I said, there's this guy that's not with the same company that I am, but he sells a bunch of real estate in my market. So he does it, and he's not with my company. And then there was another guy that worked in a different area. And I was like, if he has this, then this story is not true, And I kind of audited my way out of it. Now, here's another thing that people have problems with. You walked away from some money and you walked away from you had something good. I know agents that have received signing bonuses with certain companies, and those signing bonuses kind of keep them attached. I've talked to agents and they're like, well, I'm going to go with the company that maybe pays for my for sale signs or pays for my business cards or gives me like X allowance for marketing. Like, how hard is it for people, or how hard is it because for people to walk away? Like, I've kind of seen it from a significant amount of money. Sometimes it's kind of like really hard, even for our clients. Like when we're selling real estate and they have to, and they take a loss on a property, that concept is so difficult for people. Like what has been your experience in kind of seeing that kind of play out? And was that difficult at all for you?
Yeah, so it wasn't difficult for me because I looked at it from an opportunity cost perspective. I asked myself a question like, what would this cost me in 2 years if I didn't do it? And I really thought to myself that it would cost me substantially more meaningful amount than whatever it is I was losing. So it made that decision very easy for me. I'm aware that the way that the industry is changing as well is that a lot of these companies, like you're saying, are paying money. And what they're doing is they're paying money to get people to sign up for, like 3 years. And then they have clawback provisions, right? So they're going based on like human psychology, which is sunken costs, right? So it's like I give you money, but it's really I'm just giving you a pay advance. because what's happening is usually is you're getting trapped into a split that never caps. So if you produce at a meaningful level, yeah, they might have given you 120 for 3 years, which sounds like a lot of money, but spread out over 3 years is 40 grand. And if you're making, a half a million or what, let's say $1 million at 15%, you're paying $150,000, which is like that's a lot. So if you back out the 440,000, so now you're at 110. So what you see is a lot of those agents who sign those types of agreements, as soon as they're up, they decide to do something different. So I would just propose or suggest like really trying to look at what's best in the long term versus the short term, because I know our tendency, our brains as humans, is geared towards the short term, not the long term. And then really looking at whatever model you decide to kind of explore, whether it's this one or another one, like really studying it, because it's very difficult to get accurate information, because you have to keep in mind that the people who are providing the information oftentimes have a vested interest in it being biased in their direction. So it's very difficult. It's kind of like the way somebody described to me recently. It's like, if me and you went to the Mercedes-Benz dealer and we were going to buy like a really nice Mercedes-Benz, and I look at you and I'm like, hey, Jose, I'm thinking about getting that plaid Tesla. And what do we expect the dealer to say? Do we expect him to be like, okie dokie? Or do you think he'd be like, well, it's like, okay, of course you would expect him to say that, right? So you just have to be, an educated consumer, and you have to really, gather as much information as possible, triangulate ideas with believable people, be like, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Does this really make sense for me? Be very clear on what you want, because I'm aware that this is not for everybody. It may not be for certain people. For me and you, it is. And for a lot of other people, it is. And I think for a lot of people moving forward, it's going to be. At the same time, it's just figuring out what is in alignment for you, right? And then, finding the right people to partner with.
Yeah, it was funny because one of those companies, Aaron, 2-3 years ago offered me $250,000 to move to their company. And basically what I told them, look, you would make that money back in 6 months based on your commission split because it doesn't cap. And I told the guy, I was like, look, it's basically a pay advance. And you're locking me in for a period of 2 to 3 years. But I love what you said about making the decision based on the long term versus the short term. Because I know agents that have made that decision for $10,000, $15,000. And it's like they're getting locked in for a 3-year contract where if they plan on producing, they're paying now the company for $10,000. They're making the company $100,000 or some cases more. So it's really interesting how that works and how people in the industry are offering those type of incentives to people.
I feel like it's kind of like an ego boost for people. I also am aware that like those types of money for some people is a lot. So it's like, oh, like that's a bunch of money. You know what I mean? And what I think is true is when you're newer and producing at lower levels, any of those traditional models where they don't cap, it kind of doesn't matter that much because you're not earning that much. As you start to get into more, once you start to make 150, 200, 250, 300 and up, it 1000% matters. And then you have to really start noticing like, hey, what value am I getting in return for what I'm spending? And usually it's just like, I don't know, like not much. so you really have to like look at that very, very closely and then make a calculated, like purposeful, intentional, data-driven, data-based decision that optimizes for the long term, right? Not just, what's good for today.
Yeah, I agree with you. If somebody wanted to get in contact with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so the best way would be to reach out to me via Instagram at Aaron Novello, right? At Aaron Novello, just DM me. Don't be surprised. I had a dude DM me today asking me questions, and I called him in 2 minutes, and he was like shocked. We did a live FaceTime. So know that any responses that you get are from me. It's not a bot. It's not somebody else doing it for me. You're going to have direct access to me, and just DM me. Any questions that you have. Any way that I could be of service, like I'm legitimately here to serve and to help.
Awesome. And for our viewers out there, Aaron and I have always collaborated, but this opportunity is allowing us to collaborate just at different levels. So just be prepared to see a lot more Aaron and Jose or MJ and Kobe
That's
coming
right,
out.
bro.
So
Coast to coast, you got MJ and Kobe taking over, man.
good. I just want to say, man, I really appreciate you. You have made a significant impact in my life. You have bettered my business. You have bettered my family. You have bettered my children. You have just been somebody that has made a really positive impact. Just for our viewers out there, I met you at a stage in my life where maybe I was doing maybe 20 to 30 deals at that time. I had all these rules in my head that were fed to me as to what I could and couldn't do to run my business. And a lot of it didn't make sense. And you gave me permission to make certain decisions. Not only that, but you taught me how to think as well, too. Meaning you taught me how to think about a lot of different things. And if it wasn't for you, I probably would not be the agent that I am today. So I really appreciate you. My goal moving forward is just to get more people to know about you, have you just have more people know who Aaron Novello is, because I think you're one of the best kept secrets in real estate, bro. I don't think you're like Eric, the hip hop preacher, before he blew up, bro. Like you're over here dropping nuggets and gems, and not as known as some of the other people that maybe aren't providing as much value. So just kind of want to share that with you.
Hell yeah, brother. Listen, I appreciate that greatly. It's exceptionally gratifying to hear that from you. I'm aware that, without you, there'd be no place for me. So it's, been a privilege and a pleasure to be a part of that journey. I've known you since you were like a kid. And
Yeah.
now you're doing big things, brother. So it's awesome to watch. And now it's even more special because we get to collaborate and partner at an even higher level. So I'm just, I couldn't be more pleased to be doing this with you, and look forward to seeing what we make of it.
Sounds good, guys. And for all of our viewers out there, just know that Aaron and I offer a lot of different value adds to partnering with us. If you guys have any questions, either Aaron or myself are happy to answer them for you. And just from the bottom of our hearts, we look forward to connecting with you guys and helping you in one way or another. Sounds good, guys. Peace out.